Good afternoon. I'm Keith Jones. I've been organist at St Michael's Alcombe and choirmaster since Old Testament times. And I have a naughty rhyme for you. This is it. King David and King Solomon led merry, merry lives with many, many lady friends and many, many wives. But when old age caught up with them, with its many, many qualms, King Solomon wrote the Proverbs and King David wrote the Psalms. Psalms. As a choir boy in Manchester Cathedral, I sang psalms 6 days a week, and in the course of 5 years, that was a lot of psalms. Too many psalms, people might say, for a choir boy. Boys don't like psalms, and I suppose they were sort of Marmite, either you liked them or you hated them. Well, we love them. By and large, we love them. Why? Because Norman Cocker, our choir master, was an enthusiast. He believed they really mattered. Here's Norman in 1950 at choir camp in North Wales with his enamel jug behind him. Obviously, he was on duty that morning. He said the Psalms were the bread and butter of our job. He spent hours reshaping and editing the pointing, that is where we change the notes so that we alter the sense. And he said if we could understand what we were singing about, the chances were so could the congregation. And he had a point. I so loved the way we sang the Psalms that when he died, and I heard that his successor was going to make a bonfire of all the old psalters, I snuck into the cathedral under cover of night and liberated this copy. Of all the Psalms, Psalm 72, which begins, "Give the King thy judgments, O God, and thy righteousness unto the King's Son," was my first love. We sang Psalm 72 every time the court session for the judges of assize came round, and at their cathedral service when they were all in their glad rags, and the boys giggled as the very short High Sheriff trailed his ridiculously long ceremonial sword behind him, clanking and sparking all the way up to the high altar. What grabbed my imagination about the psalm, though, were the presents. These were the presents that the exotic kings and princes brought from amazing places, or the king celebrated in the psalm. I quote, "The kings of Tharsis and of the isles shall give presents. The kings of Arabia and Saba shall bring gifts. All kings shall fall down before him. All nations shall do him service. He shall live, and unto him shall be given of the gold of Arabia. There shall be an heap of corn in the earth high up on the hills. His fruit shall shake like Libanus, and shall be green in the city like grass upon the earth." Now, although we kids were mightily impressed by how grand, powerful, wealthy and charismatic this king seemed to be, Norman told us that the main thing about him was not that he was any of these things, but that he was kind, just, sympathetic to the downtrodden in the world. This king was very unusual in his time. He would judge the people fairly. He would defend the poor and keep the simple folk by their right. He would defend the children of the poor and punish the wrongdoer. Unforgettable for me are the words the psalmist uses to paint an image of the gentle touch of this king's administration of justice. As we sang them, Norman would pull out a sweet fluty stop on the organ to illustrate the words. And these are the words: "He shall come down like rain into a fleece of wool, even as the drops that water the earth." Like rain into a fleece of wool. Magic. Later we learnt that Solomon was not only describing his personal ambition for his own reign, but was also anticipating another even greater son of his father David, who of course was Jesus himself. So all these presents were like Christmas presents, which added immeasurably to their lustre for us choir boys. And the visiting kings were the forerunners of Caspar, Melchior and Balthazar, the three magi. Bingo! We lads knew about them. We could level with them. That was good news. Now, in my quite modern hymn book are half a dozen hymns based on my favourite Psalm 72. Psalm 34 is very similar in content, and there are many hymns based on that. I wonder why. I wonder what the popularity may be. Could it be that these psalms and others like them are valued because they celebrate a model of the exercise of power which is not bullying, divisive, threatening, judgmental and violent, but that works instead according to the laws of love, gentleness, compassion and self-sacrifice? I'm going to end by offering one of these hymns based on Psalm 72, which John Bell of the Iona community has arranged. The tune is from Nicaragua and the translation is from the Spanish. For the world and all its people, we address our prayers to God. Confidently all can worship in the presence of the Lord. All the powerless, all the hungry, are most precious to their God. Confidently all can worship in the presence of the Lord. For the poor God has a purpose, for the desperate a word. Confidently all can worship in the presence of our God. Christ is here and Christ is stronger than the strength of sin or sword. Confidently all can worship in the presence of the Lord. God will fill the world with justice when our will and his accord. Confidently all can worship in the presence of the Lord.